What would you do if you discovered your name carved into a tomb that predates your birth by 3,000 years? Not a similar name, not a coincidence of spelling, but your exact name, complete with a birth date that matches yours down to the day? This is the story of Dr. Sarah Catherine Thorne, and what she found in the depths of ancient burial sites will challenge everything you think you know about time, identity, and the very nature of existence itself. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Sarah Thorne disappeared from academic circles entirely, why certain archaeological sites remain permanently sealed, and why there are people who believe that some names are not chosen by parents, but inherited from something far more ancient and terrifying than we dare imagine. Sarah Catherine Thorne was born on March 15, 1987, in a small town outside of Edinburgh. By 28, she had earned her doctorate in ancient Near Eastern studies and had established herself as one of the most promising archaeologists of her generation. Her specialty was funerary inscriptions, the messages carved into tombs and sarcophagi by civilizations long dead. She had a gift for deciphering the most weathered and damaged texts, finding meaning where others saw only scratches in stone. In the summer of 2015, Sarah was invited to join an excavation in southern Turkey, near what was once the ancient Hittite Empire. The site had been discovered by accident when construction workers building a new road broke through into what appeared to be an extensive underground burial complex. The Turkish government, recognizing the potential historical significance, had halted construction and called in an international team of experts. Sarah's job was straightforward: catalog and translate the inscriptions found throughout the burial chambers. The work was methodical, often tedious, but she loved it. Each carved symbol was a voice from the past, a message from someone who had lived and died millennia before she was born. The first tomb chamber contained the expected funerary texts, prayers to forgotten gods, lists of the deceased's accomplishments, warnings against disturbing their rest. Standard fare for a burial site of that period. But as Sarah worked deeper into the complex, she began to notice something that made her hands shake as she held her translation notes. In the third chamber, carved into the wall above a stone sarcophagus, she found her name. Not Sarah, which might have been explained as a coincidence, but Sarah Catherine Thorne, spelled out in perfect Hittite cuneiform. The inscription was weathered, clearly ancient, but unmistakably her full name. Sarah's first instinct was to assume she had misread. The symbols cuneiform could be tricky, and similar-looking characters might create the illusion of familiar words. She spent hours double-checking her translation, consulting reference materials, even asking colleagues to verify her work. But no matter how many times she looked at it, the inscription remained the same: Sarah Catherine Thorne, followed by a date that, when converted to the modern calendar, was March 15, 1980-7. Her birth date. The rational part of Sarah's mind insisted there had to be an explanation. Perhaps someone was playing an elaborate hoax. Though the idea of forging ancient Hittite inscriptions seemed absurdly complex for a prank. Perhaps she was having some kind of breakdown, seeing things that weren't there. But the inscription was photographed, documented, witnessed by other team members. It was undeniably real. As the excavation continued, Sarah found more. In a fifth chamber, her name appeared again, this time as part of what seemed to be a genealogical record. The text described a woman named Sarah Catherine Thorne who had been a priestess of an obscure death cult, someone who communed with the spirits of the deceased and helped guide souls to the afterlife. The inscription was dated to approximately 1500 BCE. In the seventh chamber, she found her name carved into what appeared to be a cursed tablet, a warning against a woman who had violated sacred burial rites. The Sarah Catherine Thorne described in this inscription had apparently stolen artifacts from tombs, disturbing the rest of the dead for her own purposes. The curse called for her to be condemned to walk between worlds, never truly alive, never truly dead, forever searching for her place in the order of things. By this point, Sarah was no longer thinking rationally. She had become obsessed with finding every mention of her name, staying in the tomb complex long after her colleagues had returned to their hotel. working by lamplight in the suffocating darkness of the underground chambers. Her notebooks filled with transcriptions of inscription after inscription, each one mentioning Sarah Catherine Thorne in various contexts: a healer, a sorceress, a grave robber, a guardian of the dead. But it was in the deepest chamber, the one they almost didn't excavate because of structural concerns, that Sarah found the inscription that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Carved into the floor of what appeared to be a ritual space, surrounded by channels that had once carried blood or other offerings, was a single line of text in perfect, precise cuneiform. Sarah Catherine Thorne will return when the seals are broken and the names are spoken. She will remember what she has forgotten. She will complete what she began. Below this inscription was a date, not in the ancient past, but in the future. September 21st, 2015, 3 months away. Sarah photographed everything. But when she tried to share her findings with the team leader, she was met with confusion. Dr. Hassan, who had been working alongside her for weeks, looked at her photos and insisted that the inscriptions showed nothing but standard funerary texts. Where Sarah saw her name carved in stone, he saw prayers to ancient gods. Where she saw dates and prophecies, he saw inventory lists and genealogies. Other team members confirmed Dr. Hassan's assessment. To everyone else, the inscriptions were entirely ordinary, exactly what one would expect to find in a Hittite burial complex. Sarah began to wonder if she was losing her mind, if the isolation and stress of the excavation had caused her to hallucinate meanings that weren't there. But then the dream started. Every night, Sarah found herself walking through vast underground chambers, not the ones she was excavating, but older, deeper spaces carved from living rock. In these dreams, she wasn't Sarah the archaeologist, but Sarah the priestess, Sarah the sorceress, Sarah the guardian of thresholds between life and death. She remembered centuries of existence, not as a continuous life, but as a pattern that repeated, the same soul, born again and again. Always with the same name, always drawn to the same work. In her dreams, she remembered other excavations, other times when archaeologists had broken the seals on ancient tombs and found her name carved in languages they couldn't read. She remembered standing in the shadows watching these confused scholars photograph inscriptions that spoke of her return, never understanding that she was already there, already back, ready to complete the work that had been interrupted by death. Again and again and again. September 21st arrived with unseasonable cold. Sarah had requested to work alone in the deepest chamber that day, claiming she needed to complete her documentation without distractions. The rest of the team was happy to let her work. They had grown concerned about her behavior in recent weeks, her increasingly erratic sleep schedule, her tendency to mutter in what sounded like ancient languages. What happened in that chamber on September 21st remains a matter of dispute. The official report states that Dr. Sarah Catherine Thorne suffered what appeared to be a complete psychological breakdown, speaking incoherently about past lives and ancient curses before disappearing entirely from the excavation site. Her colleagues found her equipment abandoned in the ritual chamber, along with notebooks filled with what appeared to be random scribblings in various ancient scripts. But there are other accounts, whispered stories from local workers who claimed to have seen things that defied explanation. They spoke of lights emanating from the deepest chamber that night. Not the harsh white of electric lamps, but a soft, golden glow that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. They describe sounds echoing from deep underground, not quite human. Voices, but not quite anything else either. Chanting in rhythms that seemed to bypass the ears and resonate directly in the bones. And then there were the inscriptions. The morning after Sarah's disappearance, several team members reported that new carvings had appeared in the ritual chamber. Fresh cuts in ancient stone that spoke of completion, of seals restored, of a guardian returned to her proper place. These inscriptions vanished by afternoon. Dismissed as stress-induced hallucinations by the official investigation, the excavation was halted immediately after Sarah's disappearance. The Turkish government, citing safety concerns and cultural sensitivity issues, sealed the entire site and banned further archaeological work in the area. The official records were classified, the photographs and documentation confiscated. The team members required to sign comprehensive non-disclosure agreements, but some information leaked out, as it always does. In the years following the incident, other archaeologists began reporting similar experiences at sites around the world. Always the same pattern: a researcher specializing in funerary inscriptions would find their own name carved into ancient tombs, always with dates that corresponded to significant moments in their lives, always followed by dreams of past lives and ancient duties. Dr. Marcus Webb found his name in hieroglyphics in a previously unexplored chamber of the Valley of the Kings. The inscription described him as a scribe, responsible for recording the names of the dead, a position he had apparently held across multiple dynasties spanning 2,000 years. Professor Elena Vasquez discovered her full name, including her middle initial, carved into Mayan stelae in Guatemala. The inscriptions depicted her as a priestess who guided souls through the underworld, helping them navigate the trials that awaited them after death. Dr. James Morrison found himself mentioned in runic inscriptions in a Viking burial ship, described as a seer who could speak with the spirits of warriors who had died in battle, helping them find their way to Valhalla, or warning them of the punishments awaiting those who had died without honor. In each case, the pattern was the same: names that shouldn't exist in ancient contexts, birth dates carved in stone millennia before the individuals were born, and descriptions of roles that seemed to center around death, the afterlife, and the liminal spaces between worlds. More disturbing still were the disappearances. Like Sarah, many of these archaeologists simply vanished, leaving behind only their research and equipment. Some left behind journals filled with increasingly frantic notes about dreams and memories that felt more real than their waking lives. Others abandoned detailed plans for rituals designed to complete the cycle or return to proper service. The academic community has largely dismissed these incidents as a form of mass hysteria, a psychological contagion that spreads among researchers who spend too much time alone with ancient texts. The official explanation is that isolation, combined with the pressure to make significant discoveries, creates a perfect environment for delusions and false pattern recognition. But there are those who believe something else is happening, something that challenges our understanding of time, identity, and the nature of existence itself. They point to the consistency of the experiences, the specific details that appear across different cultures and time periods, the way the names appear in scripts that the affected individuals had never studied. These researchers have begun to develop theories that sound more like science fiction than archaeology. They suggest that certain individuals might be what they call temporal echoes, souls that exist across multiple time periods simultaneously, living the same roles and fulfilling the same functions throughout history. According to this theory, the names found in ancient tombs aren't anachronisms or hoaxes, but evidence of a cyclical existence that transcends normal human understanding. Others propose that the inscriptions represent a form of temporal manipulation, messages sent backward through time by advanced civilizations or entities that exist outside normal causality. In this interpretation, the archaeologists aren't discovering evidence of their past lives, but receiving instructions for roles they are destined to play in some cosmic order that spans millennia. The most disturbing theory suggests that the disappearances aren't accidents or breakdowns, but successful completions of an ancient purpose. According to this interpretation, the affected individuals aren't losing their minds, but rather remembering their true nature and returning to duties that were temporarily interrupted by death and rebirth. The archaeological work, the discovery of their names in ancient contexts, and the gradual awakening of memories all serve as preparation for their return to whatever cosmic function they were meant to serve. There is one final piece to this puzzle, one that makes the entire story even more unsettling. In 2022, 7 years after Sarah Catherine Thorne's disappearance, a new excavation began in Egypt, in a previously unexplored section of the Saqqara necropolis. The team, led by Dr. Rachel Kim, was investigating what appeared to be a series of administrative buildings associated with the ancient cemetery complex. In one of these buildings, carved into a wall that had been sealed for over 4,000 years, they found a complete personnel record written in hieratic script. The document listed the names and duties of individuals responsible for maintaining the necropolis, ensuring proper burial rites, and guiding souls through the afterlife process. The list included dozens of names, and among them, clearly readable, despite the age of the inscription, were the complete names of every archaeologist who had disappeared after finding themselves mentioned in ancient texts. Sarah Catherine Thorne was listed as chief guardian of thresholds. Marcus Webb was described as primary scribe of the dead. Elena Vasquez was identified as guide of lost souls. Below each name was a date, not in the ancient past, but in the recent future, ranging from 2023 to 2031. Next to these dates were single-word descriptions: recalled, returned, restored. Dr. Kim immediately sealed the chamber and contacted authorities. But when officials arrived to investigate, they found the wall blank. The inscriptions had vanished as completely as if they had never existed. Dr. Kim's photographs showed only empty stone, her rubbings captured no text. And her colleagues insisted she had hallucinated the entire incident. But Dr. Kim knew what she had seen, and she made a decision that probably saved her life. Instead of continuing the excavation, instead of trying to prove what she had witnessed, she abandoned archaeology entirely. She destroyed her research notes, deleted her photographs, and took a job teaching high school history in a small town. In Montana, she has never spoken publicly about what she found in that sealed chamber. But occasionally, late at night, she searches online for news about archaeological disappearances. She keeps a list of names, cross-referenced with dates, and sometimes, when she sees that another researcher has vanished without explanation from an excavation site, she adds a single word next to their name, recalled. The story of Sarah Catherine Thorne raises questions that archaeology, as a science, isn't equipped to answer. If we accept that the inscriptions were real, that her name truly appeared in contexts where it couldn't logically exist, then we must confront the possibility that our understanding of time, identity, and existence is fundamentally incomplete. Perhaps there are individuals among us whose existence spans centuries or millennia, souls that are periodically recalled to fulfill ancient duties we can barely comprehend. Perhaps the boundaries between past, present, and future are more permeable than we imagine, and certain names, certain identities, echo across time in ways that defy conventional physics. Or perhaps the human mind, when confronted with the vast emptiness of deep time and the weight of ancient mysteries, creates patterns and meanings that provide comfort in the face of our own mortality. Perhaps we need to believe that some part of us persists beyond death, even if that persistence takes the form of names carved in stone by civilizations that fell to dust before our grandparents were born. But if you work in archaeology, if you spend your time cataloging artifacts and translating ancient texts, you might want to pay attention to the names you encounter. You might want to notice if your own name appears in contexts where it shouldn't exist. And if you start having dreams about past lives and ancient duties, if you begin to feel drawn to sealed chambers and forgotten burial sites, if you find yourself remembering things you never learned, then perhaps it's time to consider that Sarah Catherine Thorne's story isn't finished yet. After all, according to that personnel record found in Saqqara, there are still names on the list, still dates in the future, still souls waiting to be recalled to whatever ancient duty calls them home. The only question is whether you'll recognize the signs when your time comes, or whether you'll dismiss them as coincidence until the moment you find yourself walking into the darkness of an ancient tomb. Finally understanding that you're not discovering the past, but returning to it. Some names, it seems, are never truly forgotten. They simply wait, carved in stone and sealed in darkness, until the seals are broken and the names are spoken once more.